We're lucky today. Our second session is, as usual, like anything from South Africa that's learning-based, very forward-thinking. I always love these guys because they have serious needs in a very obvious context. To begin, Andre, could you tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges and the exciting opportunities that you have doing learning, training, delivery, development, talent, everything in South Africa?
Absolutely. You know what, Jason, it's always a privilege for us sharing. You know, we have a very wide variety of learners from semi and illiterate to, you know, some of the smartest people on the planet that you will get in one company. And how do you offer learning to these different levels of learners? You know, so what we have found was that having that inclusive approach of taking the neuroscience approach where we look at what we have in common with each other has been a good point of departure. Obviously, you go to higher levels with your more sophisticated and developed learners, but that's always, you know, in the olden days we called it brain-based learning and development, and that was the point of departure for us, because the brain is that one thing we all have in common with each other. So it's a neuroscience is an inclusive science, but also why we use it is because it validates the behavioral sciences and it improves even people's ROI. So that's why we've always had that approach.
Fantastic. Now you answered a lot of this already, but just to clarify, to have inclusion, diversity, and neuroscience together was new for me and probably many other people. But your story brings them together and makes a lot of sense. What's the diversity that you have in your environment, and how does neuroscience bring that together?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that, because, you know, diversity, we have at least 13 dominant cultures in the workplace in South Africa at any given time in the when we look at teams and so on, and you have to be you know, sensitive towards that, accommodating and understanding, and that's where the diversity training comes in, is to understand what is it that makes us different, and to you know, when understanding comes, judgment and criticism goes. And that helps to unify teams. And that's why the diversity training is so important. But it's also in the same instance important that people have to understand that neuroscience, your brain and my brain works the same regardless of culture and race and gender and belief. And therefore we have to understand with certain things like stress and well-being and brain optimization, what works for you will work for me also. So it is important that our point of departure when you build high-performance teams is to start with what is it that we share, what is it that we have in common with each other, be cognizant of what makes us different and how that is important to another person, but the point of departure is we share what we have in common with each other.
Fantastic. Final question, which is, years ago we kind of envisioned Andre, he's the exciting, full-body, accelerated learning, training guy. And now he's the neuroscience guy. But to you, it seems to make a lot of sense and everything's connected. Can you tell us how that works?
Absolutely. You know what, when we started in the early 90s, you know, we didn't talk about neuroscience. What was available at that time was called brain-based learning and development, of which accelerated learning and all these perspectives formed part of that. But that was our point of departure. In those years, it was the early years of transformation for South Africa, you know, from an apartheid system to a democratic system. And we had to find also new technologies that were inclusive. And at the time, brain-based learning and development we felt was the solution. And over the years, it has evolved into neuroscience. And, you know, brain-based learning and development, neuroscience, it's still the same thing, it's just a different name for doing the same type of research, but definitely a very valuable point of departure for development.
Fantastic. Wonderful session. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Jason. It's indeed been a privilege. I appreciate you
cutting edge
talking to
guy
me today.
From a cutting edge country. That's some of the best for learning going forward. Thank you.